And now that brings us to the number 19 overall pick with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, there's a lot of questions we got about this one. And to help us answer those, we are pleased to be joined by SB Nation's James Hill here to break down what the Bucs have done this offseason. You see him wearing a big Tampa Bay guy. I see him in the sky blue on the undefeated Tampa Bay Rays out there in Tampa. They're switching gears. It used to be Bucs City when Tom Brady was there, and now the Lightning and the Rays are taking over here. But what can you make of this Bucs offseason to this point?
Yeah, so first, hey, thank you for having me on, Master T. It's greatly appreciated. And what a crazy offseason it has been for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? You had Tom Brady retiring. You had the firing of offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich. Dave Canales was brought in. It seems like he's going to be doing definitely a lot more of a West Coast style of offense, much like what you have seen with the LA Rams, obviously the Seattle Seahawks, the team where Canales came from, and the San Francisco 49ers. You then have a ton of different changes on the defensive side of football. You have at the safety position, Mike Edwards. He is gone now. Keanu Neal, another former starting safety, he is gone now as well. Not even to mention, you look at the left tackle position, you just released your starter in Donovan Smith. And at the running back position, you also released your starter in Leonard Fournette. So there's been such a gigantic amount of change. Obviously, at quarterback, they did just sign Baker Mayfield as well. So sweeping changes have been made on both sides of the football for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can view it. You can view it as good. You can view it as bad. It's probably somewhere in between, T, in my opinion. And I think that ultimately what the Buccaneers are going to be doing with this 19th overall pick can go in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, I take a lot of it as bad. I'm gonna be quite honest with you. At aging roster, they were trying to build around Tom Brady to win now, and now in this strange transition, they're Todd Bowles trying to take ownership of this team. But it's just very hard to see what direction this team is going in. But so we'll take a look at some of the free agency moves that they made. You mentioned some of them, of course. Baker Mayfield, after having a short tenure there with the Rams, after being waived by the Carolina Panthers, he's now in Tampa Bay. You got Jamel Dean, they re-signed. They re-signed Levante David, which were both pretty significant moves, along with Anthony Nelson in this situation. You mentioned they released Leonard Fournette, but they had to Chase Edmonds there with Rashad White. They should be fine there running back with those two guys. And, of course, firing Byron Leftwich after the Bucs won the NFC South, but fortunately for me, they lost to the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card round there. And there's we got to go with the quarterback situation because I'm confused. I don't know who's going to start. I don't know what this offense is going to look like. I don't know what to expect from this Tampa Bay Bucs offense in year one with the new coordinator and this quarterback mess situation they have right now.
Yeah, well, firstly, I want to say in regards to the offense, one of the biggest things that Dave Canales has been talking about in his introductory press conferences has been it's going to be an offense that doesn't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Now, that's a pretty big change from what we've seen in a Bruce Arians style of offense or a Byron Leftwich style of offense, a offense that required a lot of high-level execution from your wide receivers and your quarterbacks. With Dave Canales now in the mix as OC, it's going to be a little bit more of a short to intermediate passing style of offense, at least in my opinion, rather than a deep passing game that we've seen from this Buccaneers team the past couple of years, which means you said you don't know who's going to start at quarterback. I think that it is going to be a legitimate competition between Baker Mayfield and between Kyle Trask. I think both guys are going to get legitimate chances to be the starter. We've heard Todd Bowles talk about it. We've heard Jason Light talk about it. Both have given a lot of praise and a lot of confidence behind both guys. And I know it isn't the most glamorous quarterback battle in the world, but it is the one that the Buccaneers are stuck with right now after Tom Brady retired this offseason.
It's probably one of the more uglier quarterback competitions that we'll see in training camp, which will be talked about nonstop for no reason at all because it's trying to make chicken salad out of whatever you have left over in your fridge. But with the Tampa Bay Bucs, at least, they do have a lot of picks that they have to try and rebuild this roster with a post-Tom Brady, post-Gronkowski, post-Bruce Arians in the situation. And we'll get to the number 11 overall pick here pretty soon. But, of course, 1 second rounder, the 50th overall pick, the 82nd overall pick. You've got also a couple day 3 picks here, 2 in the 5th round, one of them a compensatory pick. You got 3 in the 6th and 1 in the 7th. Before we get to the first round there, will we see more picks added in this situation as there were reports coming out with Devin White reportedly not happy in Tampa, despite the fact that they have re-signed quite a bit of their defensive starters this offseason? Devin White is not happy. Do you think this ends up in a situation where they trade him away or he's no longer a Tampa Bay Buccaneer come week 1?
Yeah, well, to shed a little bit of light on that situation, T, the main reason as to why Devin White is upset in Tampa Bay right now is due to contract negotiations. It was reported by various sources that, Devin White wants to be a guy who's getting $20 million per year on his next contract. He wants to be one of the highest paid linebackers, if not players, in the entirety of the NFL. He's still incredibly young. He's still incredibly good. So there are a lot of reasons as to why that does make sense. However, contract negotiations have stalled a little bit there between the Buccaneers and Devin White. That's where you're seeing some of that frustration. That is one of the main, if not the main reasons as to why you see that trade request being made. So it is definitely going to be a very interesting situation. Happened so late in the process too, after a couple of weeks of free agency, just 2.5 weeks before the NFL draft, and now you get a trade request. So I don't know if that harms the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in terms of leverages and whatnot. And at the end of the day, look, we don't even know if the Buccaneers are going to trade Devin White. You hear Todd Bowles and Jason Light give a lot of praise and love for White and what he means in this Todd Bowles style defense in Tampa Bay. So time will tell us whether or not a deal does or doesn't get done, but it definitely won't surprise me if it does come out that teams are certainly interested in the young star linebacker on the Bucs.
And as you mentioned, James, so many holes that the Bucs have to fill here, but with the 19th overall pick, who do you have the Tampa Bay Bucs selecting?
I think I'm going to go with Darnell Wright out of Tennessee. And I talked about it earlier. You take a look at the left tackle situation right now as it stands. Donovan Smith is gone. They don't have a ton of other guys there, right? They lost Josh Wells in free agency. I believe he is now re-signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it's just a gigantic question mark there. Now, I will say the main theory amongst a lot of people has been the idea of moving star right tackle Tristan Wirfs from the right side over to the left side. If that does happen, you have a couple of options. You could move starting left guard Luke Gedeke from left guard to right tackle. That is something that may be considered. Or you could take a guy like Darnell Wright, who in my opinion is a very big, athletic offensive lineman in a very similar vein to what we have seen from Tristan Wirfs in the past, right? He's a guy that I think you can plug in as a day one starter at that right tackle position. And overall, I think have a good offensive line, especially at the two tackle spots. You have two former first round picks in Darnell Wright and in Tristan Wirfs. It would make a lot of sense given the gigantic question mark that the Buccaneers had at those tackle positions. And absolutely. I think that that is a pretty strong thing the Buccaneers could do there.
Beefing up the offensive line there makes a ton of sense for a team that is in a miserable position at the quarterback spot. James Hill, thank you so much for jumping on with us here on From the Desk and help us break down whatever the hell's going on in Tampa right now.
Yeah, hey, no problem, Master T. Thank you again for having me on. It's greatly appreciated. And, yeah, we'll see what happens with the Bucs coming up.
No doubt. Thank you, James. And coming up next here, it is time for the Emotional Power Rankings. Try and squeeze in a quick update here on the Champions League as well, because it's getting ugly in Manchester. And I'll explain why coming up after the break.